Good morning and welcome to Hello Africa. This is your premium lifestyle show of the 2019 African Cup of Nations, which officially kicked off last night. And we're here to bring you all the action on and off the pitch, the food, the fashion, the music, the lifestyle, right here on your World of Champions.
Indeed, the 32nd edition is up and running, and it is a special edition as well. Remember, 24 teams for the very first time at AFCON. One of them will be crowned champions of the continent on July.
We want you to get involved with us. Of course, follow us on Twitter. It is at SuperSport TV and use the hashtag SS. Hello, Africa.
Yes, do certainly use that hashtag because we've got a question for you, all you Twitter fanatics. We want to know, as far as Egypt are concerned, they've won this competition 3 times before as hosts. Can they do it again? Of course, you can base that answer on what you saw in the opening game when they had a go at Zimbabwe and won by a single goal to nil. Yes, no, maybe. We want to know from you.
We have got so much show for you today. A live performance at the end of the show you don't want to miss. But to get you a little bit more familiar about what you can expect in today's show, take a look at this.
Still it's Morris! And he shows his sublime skills.
Mukanjo, great goal. The shot is a beauty, absolute beauty, from a man who enjoyed just 1 minute before this evening.
Here's the follow-up from Mba. He scores! Nigeria have won the Orange Africa Cup of Nations.
This is going to be important. Worrying? I don't know. Oh, it's been saved! It's been saved! Barry Copper to win it, and he scores and sends the Ivory Coast to victory! The Ivory Coast are the 2015 Orange Africa Cup of Nations winners.
Now, chance here.
Oh, lovely work! Vincent Abubakar! Cameroon are the champions of Africa. What a tournament for Cameroon.
Well, it is certainly a pleasure of ours to welcome the 3 figures to my left, starting with Minnie Dlamini, of course, a former Banyana Banyana captain, alongside Jeff Katala, a journalist on the African continent of quite some repute as well, and the nation builder himself. But do you still remember 1996? I'm sure you haven't forgotten.
Well, it's nice memories, you know. I mean, it was once in a lifetime for South African people to enjoy it. But yeah, I think, you know, especially from there, coming to this now, it's excitement. Everybody's looking forward to it. So hopefully, you know, Bafana's doing good.
Yeah. Now, of course, we want to talk about the groups and what can people expect the players to look out for, the groups to look out for. But before we get to that, there's been a format change in this year's tournament. 16 teams used to qualify for the African Cup of Nations. The top 2 in each group would qualify to the next round. But now there's 24. The top 2 still qualify. But now there's something really interesting, Jeff, with the 3rd place. Tell us more about what we can expect in terms of those qualifications.
Well, because with the 24, actually, if 2 has to qualify from each group, we will have only 12.
Yes.
But we need to have 16 at the last 8, the last 16. That's the reason why they say that they will take the 3rd best. And it's not the first time, it's not a maiden one. Even at FIFA World Cup in 78 and 82, they did apply the same principle. So it's not something that is very new. So you will expect maybe next year or in 2 years' time, we will see the likes of Seychelles with that fat goalkeeper and Lesotho qualifying as well. You know, this is the beauty of the game, to get the minnows to come to the party as well.
Okay, so we want the minnows to come to the party. We saw Zimbabwe in action last night, Amanda, and I think the general consensus that as Southern Africans, we're disappointed that they didn't quite get the win. What do you think that means now for Group A?
Look, I honestly felt that Zimbabwe could have gotten something, probably a draw. I think everyone, of course, in South Africa, in the PSL also is rooting for Zimbabwe because we can see the potential that they have. But of course, I think it's just a matter of the level of competition at that level where you're facing a team like Egypt as host. It was never going to be easy. Yeah. But I think the manner in which they approached the game and they soaked up the pressure and just living up to the atmosphere was just something very overwhelming. And I do think that in the next match to come, they're probably going to give a positive result.
Well, they certainly have to now, Mark, isn't it? Because you don't want to start a competition on the back foot. But let's have a look at Group A. The hosts, Egypt, they've started in the best way possible, I guess, getting all the 3 points. Again, at this stage, it's not really about the performance. It's more about the result, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, especially in playing in front of the home crowd, you could see the atmosphere, people looking forward. And it's good that the hosts win because it makes sure that everybody's exciting and, it keeps that whole sort of soccer into the country. But yeah, I think we said Zimbabwe, they played very well. I think they could have got a point out of it. A little bit disappointed when it came to the sort of last third. And we always say, it's goal that wins games. And especially when you play tournaments like this. So hopefully they'll learn from it and make sure when they get in those areas that they can take the opportunity.
Jeff, coming to you as the non-biased person on this panel, we've got to talk about Group D. And what do you think the expectations are for Bafana Bafana, especially in terms of progressing to the next round? All the South Africans say it's going to happen. I want to know from you.
No, South Africa will reach the quarterfinal.
Okay.
Oh, yes, South Africa will reach the quarterfinal. Because I know that a lot of people have been saying that that's the group of death.
Yeah.
But for me, with the expansion from 16 to 24, there is no group of death. And last night just proved that Zimbabwe could have won that particular game.
For sure.
Because for the second time participating, they should have done better than last time in Gabon. So they could have beaten for me, the Pharaohs are not favorite. And even in Group D, Cote d'Ivoire is not favorite.
Interesting.
Neither Morocco.
All right.
But South Africa they stand a good chance to qualify for the next round.
We're definitely going to hold you to that on this show. So every time we have the show, we'll remind our viewers that Jeff says Bafana are going all the way to the quarterfinals. But speaking of favorites, Amanda, Senegal, definitely favorites. They've got the players. They've got the star man in Sadio Mane. They've got a bit of a challenge, though, when it comes to Algeria in their group. What do you think is going to happen there?
Look, I think I'll echo the same sentiments as Jeff. I think with the 24 teams, it allows everyone to go through. Most probably your third best, and I think it gives everyone a chance. And I think in a group like that, where I would have felt maybe the likes of Senegal would top the group, but also Algeria, I think, who, for me, in this kind of tournament, I always feel that they always disappoint because they set the expectation and they always rise above themselves. But when it matters the most, they never really, reach the crux of winning that title. So I think the likes of Senegal have a huge chance, but then again, for the first time, we're having talks around Mane, around Salah, the competition between the two, and I think everyone just wanting to see how it is that they're going to fare and represent their national teams. You know how the story goes. If it is that you're the top marksman and you don't really carry the team through, you're always the target at the end of the day, so that'll be interesting.
Well, one thing we can definitely expect is a very, very interesting tournament indeed. You've heard from our expert analysts. Let's take a closer look at the groups of the 2019 African Cup of Nations.
AFCON 2019 will take a new look and a new approach, as for the first time the tournament will be held in June and July, while at the same time the event has been expanded from 16 to 24 teams. Those 24 contenders have been separated into 6 groups of 4, as the race to be crowned Kings of African football gets underway. As hosts, Egypt are in Group A and will face the Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda and Zimbabwe. Group B is quite interesting, with 2 of the tournament's 3 debutants featuring. Nigeria are the headline act, along with fellow West Africans Guinea, while Madagascar and Burundi round out the group. There's a blockbuster in store in Group C, with Senegal and Algeria finding themselves pitted against each other yet again. The 2 heavyweights are joined by East African rivals Uganda and Kenya. Group D is the potential group of death, as it features 3 former winners in Morocco, the Cote d'Ivoire and South Africa. While these 3 will be looking to add to their haul of titles, they'll be joined by Namibia. Group E is headlined by Tunisia. Their main foes will be West African contenders Mali, while Angola will be making a return to African football's showpiece event. The group is completed by debutants Mauritania. Defending champions Cameroon are in Group F. A West African derby against the Black Stars of Ghana will be the standout fixture, with Benin and Guinea-Bissau completing the lineup. After all things are said and done, 2 teams from each group will go into the last 16, with the 4 best-placed third teams also progressing to the knockout phase.
One of the most exciting things about the kickoff of a major tournament is, of course, the glorious opening ceremony. This year we saw the beautiful pyramids being represented, but a lot more graphic, a lot more lights, a lot more technical theatrics that we saw in this year's opening ceremony, whereas before you just see fields and fields of people. What were your opinions of the theatrics of this year's tournament?
I was left on my thirst because I didn't see, you know, I would have expected something because we know that when we talk about Egypt for Christians, this is where Jesus was. This is where Moses has received the Ten Commandments. This is where a lot of people have done a lot of stuff in the Bible. So we should see the representation of the historic background of the pyramid and and for the Christians as well. But for me as well, when it comes to football, Egypt is a national football. Every time Egypt is on the play, they try to do the level best to do that. Whereas I do appreciate the work done by Anthony Baffour, who's the Deputy Secretary General of CAF. But I still think that, remember that this year we had Ndaye Mulamba, the one who's holding the record of the number of goals scored in one edition. He died he's from DRC. He died in February. I thought that they were going to reserve at least 1 minute to pay tribute to him, and that wasn't done. And there was something very negative about it.
One thing, though, that I did appreciate was 4-time Grammy-nominated artist Femi Kuti being there. It was absolutely beautiful seeing him on that platform and, of course, representing Northern, Western, Southern African beautifully when it comes to the musical performance. But, of course, the thing that had everyone talking, Jeff, was the game. What were your opinions of the first game?
Very disappointed because I could see that Zimbabwe could have won that. And Zimbabwe's second successive participation, I believe that they had a very good chance actually to win that particular game. I could see that Egypt was shaking and that they didn't have any cohesion between them. They didn't close the space very well. But I couldn't see the way Billiat and Musonda were dispatching the balls. They could have won that particular game because for me, Egypt, probably it will be the first time that the second time that they host, but they don't win it.
It was definitely a result that we expected, but when you watch the game, I really think that Zimbabwe really came to the floor. The goalkeeper did absolutely amazing in that game, really a standout player. But Mo Salah, going into that game as a fan favorite, unfortunately, left a little bit to the imagination.
You know, sometimes when we expect big stars to perform, they don't do that in the first game. And that was the reason we saw that Mo Salah didn't really perform the way it's supposed to be. And he left the show to Trezeguet, Mohamed Trezeguet. And he did very well. He scored that winning goal. And they're playing in front of a capacity crowd. That's beautiful.
It was an opening game, though, that left Egypt a little bit more shaken than we expected. Congratulations to Zimbabwe. They really did put on a good fight. Lwazi is standing by with Mark and Amanda. What have you got for us?
I certainly have Amanda to my right, as well as Mark Williams as well. We're going to be chatting about the contenders for the title, the real teams that we feel that might have a chance of winning it all come the 19th of July. And Amanda, I'm going to go straight into it. Senegal, we know Egypt. Do you think one of those two sides can walk away with it, or do you think perhaps some of the dark horses have a chance this time?
I wouldn't bet my money on Senegal probably walking away with it. I'm looking at a team more like Ghana, possibly, to probably make it in the final as well. I think everyone is talking about Egypt, Senegal, because of the players that they have, but no one is really concentrating on the likes of Ghana, who I think have the capacity and the measures to probably get into another final. So whether they win it or not, I think we'll see about that.
I mean, I was talking to Jeff before we came on, and he said a team to look out for is a team like Tunisia. Not a lot of people are talking about them, and you know quite a few things about Tunisia, having scored those 2 goals against them. What type of chance do they have coming into this one?
I think if you look at in the past tournaments when they played, they're always in the semi-finals, finals and things like that. They will obviously, for me, they'll be there. For me, also one of the favorites, I mean, you just touched on it also, is Morocco, because I think a lot of people don't give them opportunity. Just remember, they're sort of close to where the tournament's Egypt, and they know the players, and they know everything. People are going to come and support them. But we're hoping that Cameroon also, I mean, we talk about last year's winners and we're like, okay, where are they? I mean, Cameroon is also a big team. You're going to have to get them in also. And, we're hoping that, Bafana does well to get in there because, why I'm saying that for Bafana to come in there, because a lot of our players, they want to play overseas, but they don't get that permit, the working permit. And I think if Bafana can do good, that gives a lot of our players to go and play in the top division. And I think that's just good for the country.
Well, it certainly is a good thing for the country, should the likes of Percy Tau. He's very much in the spotlight. But what do some of our journalists think? We've got Shai, who's a journalist, of course, with Soccer Africa. Let's find out who she thinks, rather, is going to be doing the job come the 19th.
Hello Africa, hello Minnie and Lwazi. Incredibly excited about the Africa Cup of Nations competition, especially because of Bafana and also because every year there are more and more African players competing at the highest level and playing for top leagues in Europe. So it will be interesting to see the type of experience that they bring to their national teams. As much as I want Bafana to go all the way, my top 5 teams for the competition has to be between Egypt, Morocco, Ghana, Nigeria and Cameroon. Top of the list, obviously Egypt. They're the most successful country in the competition, and because of home ground advantage, we know how North Africans love to flock to the stadium. And secondly, before I go, Morocco, tons of good talent in the team, and the head coach has won the competition twice, so very successful. But let's see how this competition pans out.
Thank you very much to Shai Akada of Soccer Laduma. She's given us who she thinks is going to be winning. So, Mark, your turn. Who is definitely going to be winning this one?
Definitely going to win it?
Definitely winning it.
I know Egypt is going to be in the finals.
You're not giving us an answer.
And if I have to, because I don't like to, it's an opening game and things like that.
Yeah.
There's going to be a couple upsets are going to come in.
Yeah.
Sorry, in the quarterfinals, semifinals, that is it, And I think it could be Ghana.
Ghana. So
Yeah.
Ghana are going to be winning yet another time.
Ghana and Egypt in the finals for me. I don't know who's going to win it. I'll let
Amanda,
you know.
for you?
Shazzy, I thought I answered you.
Remind us.
I'll go for Ghana.
You go for Ghana as well? Okay, so we've got both our analysts here going for Ghana to win the title. That's going to be really interesting to see if it does actually happen for the Black Stars. But let's quickly then just unpack who some of the other contenders are at AFCON 2019.
All eyes fall on Egypt for the 32nd edition of the Africa Cup of Nations. While 24 teams will lay siege on the overall prize, which of these are best placed to claim the trophy? Tunisia have gone under the radar despite boasting a complete squad with depth across the park. The recruitment of recent years stands them in good stead, as will North African advantage. Crucially, this team allies grit at the back with a few key difference makers further forward. 3 consecutive victories ahead of the tournament, including a win over World Cup finalist Croatia, bodes well. Can the Carthage Eagles claim a second title after home success in 2004? The Super Eagles of Nigeria are back in the big time for the first time after winning the title in 2013, with Gernot Rohr following up World Cup qualification with a spot in Egypt. They boast a fine blend of experience and youthful verve, and a fine qualifying campaign was a strong statement, this despite going down to South Africa in Uyo in the first game of qualifying. With a talent pool spread across all corners of the globe, can Rohr inspire them to success? The Atlas Lions of Morocco were Africa's outstanding team at the World Cup, even if they fell at the first hurdle. Their form continued in qualifying as they cruised in booking a ticket to Egypt, and on the surface it looks great. In Hervé Renard, they have a 2-time winning coach, having guided Zambia and the Côte d'Ivoire to success in 2012 and 2015. Senegal head to the tournament as the continent's highest-ranked team, but as a team who are yet to win the greatest prize on the continent. Senegal breezed through qualification, taking 16 points and remaining unbeaten. The Lions of Teranga have learnt a lot from the exploits in Russia last year, while there are few players in the world who's in better form than Sadio Mane at the moment. The Liverpool star will be backed up by an excellent supporting cast as the Teranga Lions look to win their first title. Will 2019 be the year the Teranga Lion finally roars? But when it comes to success at AFCON, it's difficult to look beyond Egypt. The 7-time winners will be buoyed on by home support, and not to mention the not-so-little Mohamed Salah factor. The Liverpool man and the Pharaohs also have a point to prove after their first World Cup since 1990 proved to be a miserable, pointless affair. They haven't had the luck of the draw this time around, with the DRC and Uganda potentially proving tricky obstacles, but in organized structure, the experience of coach Javier Aguirre and the star quality of Salah, who heads into a major tournament in full fitness after his injury nightmare 12 months ago, sets them amongst the favourites. Will it be lucky number 8 for the Pharaohs?
It's time to take a look at the teams who have the most titles in terms of the African Cup of Nations. Leading the pack is host nation Egypt with 7 titles, Cameroon with 5, Ghana with 4, who, according to our expert panelists, are saying that they are, in fact, their fan favorites to win the tournament. Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire hopefully won't give us too much of an upset, but we want to know from you, do you think host nation Egypt can win it at home for the 3rd time in terms of the African Cup of Nations, and that will make their 8th win for the tournament? Let us know what you think. It is hashtag SS Hello Africa, and of course at SuperSport TV. We'll see you after the break, because when we return, we chat to international music sensation. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be lit. Welcome back. You're watching Hello Africa, and I'm standing by with international music sensation. He's just walked away with the South African Music Award. Trezor, welcome to Hello Africa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Trezor, what we're so excited about having you here today is because your music really represents not only Southern Africa, but Africa as a whole. How has your journey on the continent and living in so many different countries influenced your music?
Thank you so much. I'm very, very proudly African, and I mean, living throughout Africa has shaped me into the artist I am today.
For sure.
The people, the sound, the cultures. They're such a beautiful, beautiful continent, and I really am proud of our roots and where we come from. And it really has shaped me into this very proud African man about pretty much everything about Africa. And I really love who we are. I love how we sound, how we smile, how we look, everything.
Everything about us. Internationally, though, people absolutely love your sound, and it's because you do not compromise on the quality and the authenticity of the sound that you create. What are the countries that have really influenced your sound?
I have this thing that I always tell my friend, that I'm being very blessed to be born in Congo, which is one of the most incredible musical countries, I believe, on the planet, and living in South Africa, another one. Of course, for me, those are 2 of the most important countries musically in Africa. And both Congolese music and South African music have really shaped my sound and how I shape my music. And also, I just borrow from pretty much any other culture in Africa, a little bit of Western Africa, whether it be Senegal, whether it be Afrobeat in Nigeria, or be high life in Ghana, or East African music, which have a little bit of Congolese influence in it. And pretty much I mix sound from all over Africa, because I believe we have such an incredible, vast sonic sphere that it will be very sad if I don't explore.
Congo is playing tonight. What do you think the score?
Hey, I think 2-0.
Oh, right, to Congo?
Of course.
Look at you.
Of course. Shout out to the Leopard. Good luck to them. Incredible team. I know they haven't had the best time in the last few years, but I hope that they'll be able to come through tonight, and good luck to them.
Now, one of my favorite things about the African continent is the food. And you've literally not only lived but worked in so many different regions on the continent. What would you say is your favorite African dish?
The favorite African, I mean, it depends from where, but obviously I grew up in Congolese cuisine, so we have this dish with tilapia, couscous, mixed with vegetables, and plantain.
Oh, yeah.
A really beautiful dish. But I also really love the staple African food, which is grilled meat, pap, and vegetables.
That's what's up. Give me meat, I am happy.
That's the best.
That is the best.
Yes.
Trezor will be performing for us at the end of the show, so don't go anywhere. But right now, our very own Palesa is with Chef Coco, and they're cooking something interesting and African in the kitchen. Let's take a look.
Hello Africa, and welcome to African Bites with me, Palesa Masiteng, and your favorite African contemporary chef, Chef Coco. Today, we're exploring Central Africa, and we're taking a bite out of Cameroon with a very special dish made for VIPs. Let's join Chef Coco in the kitchen and find out what's cooking. Hello, Chef Coco.
Hello, Palesa.
How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Please
good.
be welcome in the kitchen.
Thank you so much. What are we cooking today?
So today, as you say, we'll be cooking poulet DG.
Okay.
It's a Cameroonian dish which have become traditionally known as the most famous Cameroonian dish. Poulet in French means chicken.
I've been learning my French.
Yeah, and DG come from Directeur Général, which is like the chairman, the boss.
Oh, okay, so it is for VIPs
Exactly.
then. Okay, let's share the ingredients.
So as ingredient, obviously we have the chicken, some vegetables that we use, either green beans or peas. The marinade for the chicken, which is some onion, carrots, celery, leeks, and green onions. And one of the most favorite banana in Cameroon, which is a plantain.
Banana, chef.
Exactly.
Really?
Banana, really. And it's the type of banana that you cannot eat it raw.
Okay.
Not a dessert, you have to cook it.
Very interesting. I'm looking forward to this dish. Okay, let's get started.
Let's, as you say, let's get started.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be doing that much. I will ask you to come and help me on this side.
Okay.
You're going to be doing the chicken for me.
Gladly, I'll do so. Okay, taking direction from the chef. Whoa!
I'm going to add a little bit of tomato.
Okay.
We can add the plantain. This one is the fish stock. Okay, I'm going
Fish
to add
stock?
yes, fish stock.
This is
sure
why
it's
we love
covered.
you, chef, hey?
Thank you.
Because you just add your twist to everything. Awesome stuff.
So, by serving, we put the pieces of chicken.
It smells delicious, guys. A bit of
Garnish
plantain.
with the plantain, and we put some vegetable on the side, the carrots. We're gonna garnish a little bit with some micro herbs. And this is my invitation to Cameroon for you. Are you enjoying it? Are you in Cameroon?
I'm in Cameroon.
Perfect. Mission accomplished.
That was absolutely delicious. If you want the recipe, you can check out our social media platform. Until next time, join us for more African Bites.
Thank you very much to Palesa, and I can definitely imagine that that particular insert and segment is going to be the favorite if we go forward on the show over the next couple of weeks. But we're going to be chatting now about some of the impact players that we are certainly having an eye on at AFCON 2019. We've already touched on Mo Salah. We've already seen him in action. But on the other side of the coin for Senegal, again, is their main man, their number 10, their talisman, their captain, Sadio Mane.
Yeah, Sadio, I think, is a very capable player, one who will always certainly rise up to the occasion. And I think everyone will be looking at him to sort of carry the team through. But not only is he that kind of finisher in front of goal, but I think in a team like Senegal, you'll have to have the necessary supply. And I think that will be important, and that will be the defining factor. If it is that he'll be playing as a target person, or will he be dropping in midfield to try and be that creative person. But I think he's one person I know for sure is going to be in the forefront, possibly even going for top goal scorer of the tournament. We don't know, but it's good that we start talking about top goal scorers in the tournament.
Okay, and again, we're going to touch a bit more on top goal scorer in a fair bit, but the fact that Jeff, he's got a star quality in terms of teammates to call upon, the likes of Kalidou Koulibaly, Salif Sane, Cheku Kouyaté in the midfield, Drissa Gueye as well. Those are the type of players that will also be needed if Senegal are to win their first title.
Yes, Mam Nyang and Bai Nyang, as well Ismail Assar. So it's a complete team in terms of talent. But in terms of a team, they haven't reached that level yet.
You don't think they?
No, they haven't reached that level yet. But mind you, whenever they talk about big players like we saw Mo Salah last night, and probably we'll see Sadio Mane, because those are the two stars. And for me, if I can say that when they played in the final UEFA Champions League final, it was very dull compared to what I've seen against Wydad and Esperance of Tunis. That was the first time that Africa has beaten Europe, and I was very happy for that. But again, there are other players that can still do the job in this tournament. You do have Andy Delors from Algeria. You know, Nicolas Pepe, an Ivorian who plays for Lyon, Cornet. Those are the capable guys that can change the game for you in the middle of...
Amanda mentioned top goal scorers. In the qualifiers, we had one Odion Igalo finding the back of the net with regularity for Nigeria.
Yeah.
Again, he comes into this one, a lot will be expected of him.
Those are qualifiers. The AFCON finals is another thing. It's gonna be tough for him.
Yeah.
And remember that he's aging. He doesn't have that mobility anymore. So probably during the qualifiers, if you can have someone like, you have an opposition like Seychelles, you can bang even 10 goals.
Yeah.
Yes, you will be top the group or as a top goal scorer. But in the finals, that's another different ball game.
From a coaching perspective, Mark, if you're Kenneth Wa at the moment, you're looking at Odion Igalo, your main striker, you want goals from him, but at the same time, you also want to set up the right type of players alongside him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's very important, and a lot of times we talk about individuals, but I think, when you play these type of tournaments, it's a team effort.
Yeah.
Because the team has to make sure that they release those players, that they can give them the full opportunity where they can get themselves in the right opposition and start scoring goals, like we talked about Saleh and these players when they played for Liverpool. And when they come and play for the African team, it's a different setup, because I think that what people need to understand is that when they play for Liverpool, the players around them are paid to make sure that they give them the services.
Yeah.
In Africa, sometimes it's not like that. I've seen it a lot of times that you get players that, okay, he's getting this. Do I really have to release the ball? Do I really have to pass the ball? But, at the end of the day, it comes down to the coach to make sure that he puts that setup and say to the players, listen here, we're going to play this type of football.
Yeah.
And I always say that nowadays you can't play one striker, because for me, if you play one striker, you actually sort of just bring him back. You rather play three strikers. Say a lot of teams actually, because remember, this is a once-off team.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you go and support the player with the ball, because if you're going to play one and then the team that defends, they can play three at the back and put four in the middle and then three up front. So I'm hoping that from our side, because you mentioned about the coach, Stuart Baxter, last time when he played against Nigeria, we needed a draw actually. And, he played Percy Tau up front, and there was like 15 minutes left. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, coach, come on, coach, I need you to be like now, be strong and put on the two players, with pace and support him and just get the draw. So I'm hoping that this time he's got that attacking mindset. Because, look, I don't want to say it, but I think that I played in England. I know a lot of coaches in England.
Yeah.
They got a defensive mindset. So I'm hoping that this time he's going to say, guys, go out there, go and enjoy it and get the goals.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Percy Tau, and I guess if we are to get the best out of him as South Africa, we need to play an attacking type of game. So his combination with Lebo Motiba, we've touched on it. It's been covered quite extensively over the past couple of months. It's going to be really important as well this time around.
Yeah, and I think interesting, the telepathy between the two, even though they haven't really played with each other for that long.
Yeah.
But the understanding of the two players, especially, is just something that's like second to none. But then you need more players to get involved, because I think everyone is talking about Percy Tau, not only in the African continent, but also in Europe. So every team that will be playing against South Africa will have studied Percy, his runs, deadly runs that he does, his timing of the offside. So I think I'm with Mark on this one. We just really need to show up on the day, play three strikers up front, because, I mean, when you play three strikers up front, you get a chance to pressurize the ball in defense without allowing them into our own half. So we'll wait to see, of course, the tactics of the coach.
Well, certainly these two feel Bafana should go all out in their group in trying to make sure South Africa qualify for the round of 16. Do let us know, though, who your top 5 players to look out for at AFCON are. We've tried to put together a list. Here it is.
There'll be an abundance of world-class talent on display at AFCON 2019. A galaxy of stars head to Egypt, and there's a feeling that African football has never been stronger. But which star is expected to shine brighter than most? Dennis Onyango is a colossus. The big Ugandan is an ever-present in Mamelodi Sundowns' rise in African football. The Cranes captain is a shot stopper of the very highest quality and is the definition of the term sweeper keeper. Earlier this year, the 33-year-old was named in the CAF Africa's Best 11 to be named Africa's best goalkeeper. Can he inspire the East Africans to success? While Onyango has scaled heady heights, there's a feeling that his former Sundowns teammate Percy Tau could be there very soon. The jewel in the Bafana crown, Tau has grown in leaps and bounds since swapping South Africa for Europe. After being loaned out by Brighton and Hove Albion, he lit up the Belgian second division and was named Player of the Year. Equally adept at scoring and creating, Egypt 2019 could be the latest leap made by this South African superstar. Many eyebrows were raised when Odion Igalo swapped the Premier League for the riches of the Chinese Super League. But one thing has remained a constant is that the Nigerian hasn't lost his appetite for goals. As the top scorer during qualifying, Nigerians breathed a collective sigh of relief when he passed fit for the tournament. Having scored 21 times in 28 appearances for the relegated Yangchun Yatai last season, Igalo heads into the tournament in fine form. As far as star quality is concerned, it's impossible to look beyond Liverpool's white-hot pair of Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah. The Senegalese forward has firmly established himself as one of the best players in the world, who's capable of both scoring and creating. Mane played a massive role by helping Senegal finish their qualifying campaign unbeaten. Continental glory is now the aim. Salah is often mentioned as the heir to Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo as the finest player in the world. After yet another successful season with Liverpool, Salah will be raring to go in the colours of his national team. Already an Egyptian icon, the 27-year-old recently retained his African Footballer of the Year award, and it's no secret that the Pharaohs' aspirations for AFCON 2019 directly correlate to the individual performances of their talisman. The UEFA Champions League winner will have the dreams of the nation resting on his shoulders. Egypt's number 10 is excited at the prospect of helping his country win the 8th AFCON title. These 5 are just a select few who have been handpicked, and the likes of Koulibaly, Pepe, Ziyech, Mahrez and Onana will no doubt have a massive say for their respective countries.
You've seen the top 5 players to look out for, but these are the top 10 most valuable players. Amanda, this is the moment you realize that we're in the wrong profession, we're in the wrong industry. We need to be in England by the looks of this, with Mo Salah leading the pack again with 150 million euros. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, but it's good that African players are up there, counted amongst the most valuable players, I think, around the world. It sort of gives us that little bit of an edge that people can actually come to the African continent. It's a market now. It's a hunting field for good players. So it's good to see them. Also, City players also there in the mix of things.
I see them.
Perez is there, so it's quite good. It's interesting.
My favorite thing, though, Amanda, about a tournament like this is that this is the moment where players really get to step up. This is the moment where stars are born, stars are created. Yes, we've got your Mo Salahs that everyone's raving and talking about, but a match like last night against Zimbabwe, I mean, we really saw our African brothers, our Southern African brothers, really come to the floor in terms of the game. What did you think of that match against Egypt last night?
My honest opinion, and this is not from an analytic point of view, I did feel, though, as Zimbabwe probably were a bit carried away of the whole occasion. And I think trying to keep up with Egypt, of course, because certainly their expectations were quite high. They had to win their first game. So I think they're a bit dismantled in certain areas of the pitch where you'd wanted them to be a bit more organized. So because of that, that wind behind their backs carrying them, that occasion and the first game, but hopefully second game they'll be a bit more organized, and we'll see a different Zimbabwe, the players that we've also seen in our domestic league and the qualities that they have. So I'm looking forward to their next game.
Speaking of our domestic league, 42 players from the PSL represented in this year's AFCON. That's huge. I mean, we're not in the top 10 of the continent, but 42 players, the highest number in the tournament. What does that say about South African football?
That we certainly have the quality, but of course the standard of football in South Africa needs to be of that level. The 42 players, we need to see their quality, we need to see the competitiveness in the leagues. But of course, if you filter down those numbers, you'll see that most of those players are probably in the top 4 of the clubs that we have in our domestic league. So then it means the competition on that top 4 is obviously quite stern competition. But then we want to see the quality also in our domestic league. Also, top goal scorers coming from those 42 players.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So I think it'll be interesting next season, if it is that they consider how much of a big deal it is to have PSL players representing the African continent. That number just says a lot.
Well, speaking of the PSL, we do have the media manager, Lux September, and this is what he has to say in terms of the PSL representation, the 2019 African Cup of Nations.
Congratulations to Kev. The opening ceremony was really, really amazing last night. It's really, really what we want to see. I mean, I think it's one of the best opening ceremonies I've seen in a very long time. When it comes to the atmosphere, the setup, the actual show, the razzmatazz, as Fikile Mbalula will put it. Now, getting back into the football, first of all, it was brilliant for us to see so many South Africans, well, not South Africans, South African-based players, rather, that are playing in our league, the PSL. I think sometimes we underestimate the strength of our league, but yesterday we saw a number of the Zimbabwean players who apply their trade, and some of them who started their careers here in South Africa, leading the pack, and of course putting a very strong foot forward. Of course, I know the results did not suit them. It's not only them, there are many South Africans, be it in West African teams, in Southern African teams, that are the many South African-based players that are playing there. It talks about the strength of our league, the PSL. It talks about, it gives credence and credibility to our constant struggle to get a message across that we are the best league in Africa. And I think if you look at the number of representations of players that are there, the numbers don't lie, they speak for themselves. It's something that we must all be proud of at the PSL as a family, but we're not just a South African brand.
Thank you so much, Lux. Now, in last night's game, Amanda, we saw some Kaizer Chiefs players represented. We saw some amazing players. I mean, Kama Billiot was a standout for me. Really came up to the floor. I just wish he could have just finished. I was like, finishing school. What was your opinion of the PSL players in terms of their big match temperament from last night?
They handled it very well, I think, because you look at Kaizer Chiefs, where they are also, their pedigree in the African continent hasn't been that great. But you look at the likes of Munetsi, who have tasted the African continent pedigree in terms of CAF competitions. He was playing for Orlando Pirates, who just recently signed in France. So you can see that the level is there, but also you find a team, a Baroka-threatened team for relegation represented in the AFCON. So I think just that mix and the blend for the team is quite good. And hopefully, like I say, for me, it's the quality on the day, what it is that they can bring forth when it's time for the match. But as of now, I think the PSL, we need to take ourselves seriously to say that we're producing so much of quality. We should be able to represent at AFCON, but also, I mean, the likes of Sundowns, representing, doing well at CAF. So it just says that the standard of PSL is quite good and something that I feel we should start taking really seriously.
Yes, and now we need to get that national ranking all the way up. As I mentioned, 42 players from the PSL, the Egypt Premier League with 24 players, the English Premier League with 22 players, and the Tanzanian Premier League comes in at 20 players. Let's take a closer look at the leagues represented at this year's AFCON.
The beauty of the Africa Cup of Nations is that a number of players plying their trade across all corners of the globe come together under the African umbrella in order to do battle for the greatest prize in African football. However, which leagues will be represented best at AFCON 2019? France is a second home for African players, a fact that is confirmed once again in the 32nd edition of the tournament. Some of them are amongst the top dogs in League such as Cameroon striker Eric Choupo-Moting, South Africa's Lebo Motiba, and Ivorian rising star Nicolas Pepe, who was named as the best African player in the same competition, while many ply their trade in the lower tiers of French football. The second country that will be most represented is South Africa. Majority of the Bafana Bafana squad ply their trade at home, while the vast number of Zimbabweans and Namibians also play in South Africa's Premier Soccer League. England has become a new attraction for African players with the Premier League, the Championship and other lower divisions, including 43 players. The biggest stars are no doubt the Liverpool pair of Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah, while Riyad Mahrez of Manchester City and Manchester United's Eric Bailly offer plenty of star power. Players based in Europe dominate the squads with a total of 315, followed by Africa with 201, 32 in Asia and 4 in the United States. Senegal and Cameroon are the only teams whose entire squads comprise of overseas-based players, while Senegal coach Aliou Cisse only opted for European-based players. Cameroon's Clarence Seedorf picked Christian Basugog, the best player at the 2017 tournament, who plays for Henan Jianye in China. Algeria, Ghana and Morocco also heavily rely on foreign-based players, as they each only have one player from their domestic competition.
So a lot for South African viewers in particular to look forward to when it comes to this Africa Cup of Nations. 42 players represented from the South African Premier League. Tanzania also in there. A couple of those players, of course, plying their trade for Simba, who were in the quarterfinals of the CAF Champions League. We're going to shortly take a break. When you come back, we're going to build up to that fine performance from Trésor and also give you the results to the poll to our question, will Egypt win it yet again as hosts? Don't go away.
Welcome back to Hello Africa. We asked you a question. Do you think Egypt can win? And 50% of you say no. 30% say no. Yes, 40% say no. 30% say yes, and 30% say maybe. Lwazi, very interesting.
It is a very interesting read on that, and I'm not sure, Amanda, we don't feel that maybe Egypt have what it takes, but 40% seems to agree with us.
No, listen, I think it's a very dire situation there. A lot of people are caught in between. I don't think people actually are going with the notion of maybe Egypt going. I think it's just the fascination of Salah. But a lot of people, honestly speaking, I don't think that Egypt might win it.
Okay, all right, so Egypt are not going to be winning. And of course, we've got Ghana, a lot of Ghana here.
Yes.
I mean, Amanda and Mark.
Bakana, right? Bakana.
Yes.
Tunisia will meet the DRC in the final, but they will have an edge over them. But for me, Tunisia...
Okay, so Tunisia, they're ranked currently second on the African continent, behind Senegal.
For me, rankings mean nothing. Nothing. Because I've seen Germany being beaten, the Western Germany, being beaten by Algeria in '82 World Cup in Spain. I've seen Senegal, a rookie, beating the defending world champion France in 2002. So for me, ranking mean nothing.
Okay.
In terms of South Africa, though, Lwazi, I mean, we're not in the top 10, but 42 players represented from our league. What does that have to say in terms of our performance in this year's tournament?
Well, I mean, if you talked about 42%, I mean, that is a lot of players. But you must remember that also for them, this is a stepping stone. You know, because I think that if they do well here in South Africa, that gives them that sort of that bridge where they can go and play in Europe. But I think we are a very competitive league. Just that the only problem is that I wish Bafana could be also 40% ranked in the world where the other players can go through. So you can see those are quality players that we talk about there, you know. Obviously, people say they're coming here and they sort of trading their football there. But I think for me, the same thing. If you want to make sure they play, go to France. Don't go to Belgium where it's physical. And then when you play in France, that's another stepping stone where you can go into Europe. And a lot of things, this is just for people out there to think, where's their players should be going here.
Okay, all right. So I think Mark is zoning in on a particular South African player there. Not to mention who exactly that is. But let's have a look then at some of the rankings. If I'm not mistaken, Burkina Faso, the only top 10 side on the continent that isn't at AFCON 2019. Who are the other 9? Let's have a look.
With the dawn of AFCON 2019, African teams find themselves not just looking to land the most prized possession in African football, but also looking to make an upward stride as far as the FIFA World Rankings are concerned, by heading to Egypt, who are ranked highest by World Football's governing body. Senegal stayed atop the African teams after qualifying without defeat and picking up 16 points in qualification Group A. The Lions of Teranga, who are one of the favourites to win the title, sit in 22nd position overall. 3 places below them are the Carthage Eagles of Tunisia, who are ranked 25th, and a strong showing by the North Africans would propel them quite possibly into the world's top 20. The Super Eagles completed 3 highest-ranked African nations, with Nigeria finding themselves in 45th place. Gernot Rohr's team secured their AFCON ticket with 1 game to spare, despite losing their opener against South Africa at home. Morocco and the DRC, who both lost just 1 game during qualifiers, are the other 2 teams in the top 5, with Hervé Renard's men sitting in 47th spot overall, and the DRC following 2 spots later. Ghana appear in 50th position on the world rankings, followed by defending champions Cameroon in 51st and host Egypt in 58th. Burkina Faso are the only team amongst Africa's 10 highest-ranked nations who did not qualify for the tournament, while Mali round out the top 10. Remarkably, traditional heavyweights like the Côte d'Ivoire and Algeria are out of the top 10, with the Elephants in 11th and the Fennec Foxes in 12th.
Well, that's pretty much all we do have for you on the very first show of Hello Africa. It's going to be another 3 over the next couple of weeks as we look forward to that final taking place on the 19th of July. Gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. And again, I will not forget Tunisia. We've got Ghana we've got Ghana as well. They think those teams will be winning the Africa Cup of Nations 2019.
Lwazi, we will see you next week. We'll be together. Cannot wait for another installment of Hello Africa. Right now, Sama Award winner, African international artist, originally from the DRC, who will be playing Uganda tonight. Trezor takes the stage.
Giving up something I'll never do. Take me high, bring me back down again. I'll never have enough. When you start in the back of my mind, I forget the things that find me out. Give me faith, give me strength, give me time. I need to feel around. You my remedy, my overdose. You got a piece of me. You my remedy, my overdose. You got a piece of me. You got a piece of me. My overdose. You got a piece of me. You got a piece of me. My overdose. You got a piece of me. When you're stuck in the back of my mind, I forget the things that fade me out. Give me faith, give me strength, give me time. I need to feel around.
Saturday's action gets underway with the clash between the DRC and Uganda. After finishing third in 2015 and producing a strong showing 2 years later, the DRC have struggled to kick on under Florent Ibenge. Ibenge, though, has plenty of talent to work with, and there's no better way to settle the Butterflies than an opening round victory. The Cranes are one of Africa's emerging forces, having taken great strides under Milutin Sredojevic and latterly Sebastian Desabre. They boasted a magnificent defensive record in qualifying, remaining unbreached until the final qualifier against Tanzania. Of the so-called smaller teams in the tournament, Uganda are the best placed to stifle stronger opponents. But will it be enough for them to reach the knockouts for the first time since 1978? Three-time champions Nigeria are back at the Cup of Nations after lifting the trophy in 2013 and then unexpectedly failing to qualify for the next two editions. When the Cup of Nations was last staged in Egypt in 2006, the Super Eagles finished third behind the host nation in the Côte d'Ivoire. The tiny Central African nation of Burundi secured a first appearance at the expense of heavily favoured Gabon, despite drawing 4 of their 6 qualifiers. The day's action rounds out with a clash between Guinea and Madagascar. Guinea have qualified for their 12th AFCON, but for the first time since 2015. Under the guidance of Paul Put, there's heavy expectation from the West Africans after the tactician guided Burkina Faso to the final in South Africa in 2013. While Naby Keita is an injury doubt for the opener, the experienced Stéphane Sessignon will take on a key role. A winning start is what's required from Put and his boys. Standing in the way are debutants Madagascar. When they take to the field against Guinea, the island nation will become the 41st team to feature at an AFCON tournament. Madagascar were undefeated in their first 4 games during qualifying, winning 3 and drawing 1. Even though they lost their final 2 games, they had done enough to qualify. By booking their place in Egypt for the tournament, they showed determination, but how will they fare amongst the best on the continent?